memory is so vivid in my head. Wearing faded blue overalls, a white t-shirt, and pink Crocs, I walked down the gray, uneven road that led to my dad's landscape company, Nature's Way. The house I grew up in was on the same property as his nursery, so I frequently walked this road. It was the road to adventure during my childhood. I learned how to ride a bike on this road, I had been bitten by a dog on this road, and I had run in the rain on this road. Any exploring I did on the 5 acres of land started on this road. I believe I was 7 at the time. It was early on Saturday morning. The sun was spilling through the palm fronds like sand through a sieve, and I could hear the faint, rhythmic chirp of red robins and the pecking of woodpeckers as I walked along. The dewdrops on the grass made the ground look as if diamonds were scattered about, matching the beauty of the birds chirping. The sweet-sounding nature around me was rudely interrupted by my Crocs making an atrocious squeaking noise because they got wet in a puddle. Nonetheless, I enjoyed this walk, kicking an empty purple Fanta can down the road with me. I eventually came upon a sand pile, which was the epitome of excitement throughout my childhood. My dad kept the sand in the back of his nursery for landscaping jobs. I frequently sought refuge in this 12-foot sand pile. Upon reaching the beginning of the pile, I knelt down, feeling the sand mold to my body underneath me. This was where I was most happy. This was my home. Being an international student, it's easy to forget where you come from. Asheville School is full of great things, with its welcoming community, full of forever smiling students and teachers who drink more than enough coffee, and its great academic, athletic, and arts programs, all loved by students who participate in them. We are surrounded by a beautiful campus with evergreen pine trees, beautiful gardens, and sporting fields being tended with the same care offered to a newborn baby. Asheville School is practically perfect in every way. However, it's not quite like home. It lacks the beautiful white sand and the annoying yet familiar cry of the ignorant seagulls. It lacks the crisp, salty-smelling ocean and the rustle of palm fronds skimming across one another in sync with the wind. With all the distractions of the Asheville School, it's easy to forget where you come from. As we all know, the roots are the part of the plant that attaches it to the ground. But humans have roots too. During the first semester of Mr. and Mrs. Plain's class, we spoke a lot about our roots. Where do you come from? How does your family's past affect you now? In Toni Morrison's Songs of Solomon, the protagonist, Milkman, struggles to uncover his past, traveling to numerous places seeking the truth about his family story. He begins to change through the course of the novel as he travels from place to place in the South, digging deep into the soil to find his roots. Like Milkman, people unaware of their roots long to unearth their origin story. Without the whole story, what are we? Without our family history, we are lost as individuals, and are usually defined only by what we do. We are given titles by those around us: athlete, geek, scholar, musician, but these don't define who we are or where we came from. Television actress Dilshad Vatsaria, star of ABC Family's TV show Greek, was born in Karachi, Pakistan, but has Portuguese and Indian parents. She spent her childhood in various parts of the U.S. with her father from a young age, and eventually moved to New York to study acting. Although she's a well-known actress, we have a lot in common. No, it's not our incredible acting skills or our model-like features that make us alike. She also struggles with her roots. In the quote that Tristan read, Vatsaria states, "My parents have always been very concerned of making sure we know who we are and where we come from. I have to give them credit for that. Knowing your roots is quite important." Now, of course, my situation isn't as extreme as hers. I've only moved once, compared to the numerous homes she's had. I know where I reside. When you move around like she has, where do you even begin to call home? How do you define your roots? Do they come from your family or from your home? I relate my roots to my home, meaning Asheville School and the Bahamas. Now, that may be because my family is in the Bahamas, and people I consider to be my family live in Asheville, but seriously think about it. What do you define as your roots? Why? In Mr. Bonner's Vespers talk on September 6th, he stated that our school consists of 20 states and 16 countries. That's a lot of roots. In the midst of all this, it's easy to forget who we are. My first day at Asheville School is one I don't quite remember. I only had the distant memory of Smith, walking at a running pace up and down the second floor of Mitchell. When I first arrived, I was so caught up with making friends that I began to lose my original self. My disposition began to change completely, and I began molding into a mixture of everyone around me. I didn't see it at the time, but this wasn't a good thing. We're all like different Crayola crayons. We are meant to be different. However, I have become a mixture of several Crayola crayons, which usually doesn't result in a pretty color. I struggled so much with finding my identity because I was so heavily influenced by those around me. For example, after school was challenging. Now I'm guilty of complaining about the workload, but my fourth form year I complained more than ever. Despite the workload being manageable, I complained because my peers were complaining. Fussing about homework or tests was a way to appear academic and to fit in with the older students. I think fourth form year was the most stressful year of my life, as I put in so much effort into being someone I wasn't. It's hard to be yourself while also trying to be someone else. Thankfully, the summer after my sophomore year, I became reconnected with my old self. I needed that sense of home to rediscover who I was, and without the distractions of work and students, I was able to do so. I became incredibly independent and focused on my happiness and concerns over others. You may ask, so if she was so connected with her home, with her roots, why did she leave home? Many people like myself discover they don't appreciate their roots as much until they move away. Yes, I love living in Bahamas, and yes, I'm thankful for everything I had, but I wasn't happy. I saw myself carrying out the similar actions of a broken record player, moving on day after day with little passion or feeling for what I was doing. By moving away, I began to miss the things that used to bore me at home. I missed the downtime, the light green palm trees, and my dogs. I missed my bed, the food, and my family. Leaving home made me appreciate my roots so much more than I ever had. Likewise, I have now created roots in Asheville. During the breaks, as much as I love being at home with my family, I long to be amid rugged mountains with some of my best friends. It's because I've created roots here, and this is one of the few places I call home. I'm going to go back to the Crayola metaphor I used. Like crayons, we're all different. We were all born a specific color for a reason, and all of our colors come together to make a beautiful portrait. This portrait makes our community at Asheville School. All the different roots, backgrounds, and stories that we carry with us define the diverse community we make. Besides, if we were all the same color, the painting we would be creating would be awful and boring and never sell in an art store. As many of you go home for Thanksgiving, take the time to reconnect with your family, find your roots, and play in that sandpile.